start something out of nothing. He has the ability to manifest his goals and dreams like instantly out of thin air, and motivates people around him to do the same thing and inspires him by being that way. They are so inspired to be able to manifest instantly and create their dreams. It's a true gift that Joe has, and he's done an incredible job with this entire career of being who he is and motivating other people to be who they are. And one thing that you might not know about Joe is, and this blew my mind too, he is a musician at heart. His 4 CDs out today, 4 music CDs. In his band are people who played with Neil Young and Robert Plant, and he's got, he said, 120 years of rock and roll experience in his band through all the people who play in his band, which is amazing. So he created 4 albums in 18 months. 4 music albums in 18 months, which is just absolutely amazing. Let's just do an entire round of applause for Joe Vitale.
Thank you for asking. That is my music you're listening to. Can you turn up just for hair? Just for a moment. Turn up the hair. If I was not involved with that music, I would still say it's some of the most euphoric, exquisite, beautiful music I've ever heard in my life. That is me and my guitar teacher. The guitar teacher has 20 years of experience. He has 3 CDs out. I have 18 months of experience, and I'm keeping up with him. And the background sounds that you hear on that music is played by me through a guitar. And this was done in 2 days, basically a day and a half. Doing music has been some of the most fun that I've ever had in my entire life. And I wasn't complaining before. I was writing books, I was doing wonderful things, I was traveling, on the TV, movies, all these wonderful things. But music has been absolutely incredible. You can lower it. That particular CD is called Alighting to Zero. And you all have one in your gift bag. Now, I'm not here to talk about my music, but I'm going to use it as a metaphor because you're all empowered and empowering people. But I want to take you to the next level because I've discovered something that can step you across the line from the limitations and the barriers and the blocks into divinity itself. This is something that explains how I've been able to do 4 CDs in 18 months. The 4th CD, by the way, is being mastered today. It is finished today. It is being reproduced today. 3 Grammy winners are on it. I went to LA to mix it. I went to Nashville to master it. My band, the guys there, are so amazing. What a life I live. The drummer is the other Joe Vitale in the world. There is literally Joe Vitale. I've heard about him since the 1970s. He is a drummer for Neil Young and every rock and roll legend you can think of. Right now he's on tour with, I can't think of his name, Big Red. Who knows Big Red? Rock and roll legend. Tequila. Thank you. Sammy Hagar is on tour with Sammy Hagar right now. And the bass player played with Robert Plant. They were just with the band Joy. Robert Plant being with Led Zeppelin. My producer, Daniel Barrett, is the guy who's an award-winning singer-songwriter with the band Porter Davis. All of these guys have come into my world. So how did this come to be? It was at the TLC in Hawaii that I gave everybody there a copy of 2 of my CDs. And there were 2 questions that everybody asked me. 2. The first was, I didn't know you were a musician. Okay? And I was not a year before that. I was not. I played a little harmonica. Didn't even sing in the shower. Didn't sing behind the wheel of a car when I was by myself. Didn't do any of that kind of stuff. So coming totally green. And the second question they all asked was, where's the CD player? Nobody had a CD player. So I don't think anybody listened to the music then. So the point is, 4 CDs, 18 months. It was on my bucket list to be a musician. And I remembered that Daniel Barrett was a guy who had done a fundraising event with me at one point. It was an event called a canine concert. Anybody know what a canine concert is? Canine concert is something I invented. It's a rock and roll concert for dogs only. Yes. I'm a disciple of P.T. Barnum. I wrote a book on P.T. Barnum. The Spirit of Barnum came and said, do a canine concert to promote the book. And I needed a band to play. And they played at a sound level, are you ready? Only dogs could hear. We had all the equipment set up. They played a couple of songs for the humans who brought their pets. But Daniel Barrett was the lead singer with Porter Davis, and they were the band who came and they contributed their time. We had 4 news crews there. It was a lot of fun. It was a very hot day. But they came and they played their music totally silent for we humans, but the dogs loved it. And I told the media, whatever the dogs are doing, that's showing their gratitude. They're dancing, they're sniffing each other, they're kissing, they're peeing, whatever. That means they like the music. That's how we interpreted it. So I remembered Daniel, and I told him about my desire to make music. And I entered what he called the Rubicon Year. So Daniel Barrett puts me into the Rubicon Year, which is a hand-holding process where he's teaching me how to play the guitar, he's teaching me how to sing, he's teaching me how to get ready to go into the studio and produce my own magic. Now, something remarkable happened here, because I've written everything, as I was talking about earlier, in the small group we went through, which was a wonderful exercise you had doing there, Jack. That was from gratitude to tears, from opening ourselves to being transparent, to talk about our challenges and our sharings and our strengths. That prepared me for now. So thank you for that. That opened me up. So I told Daniel, I said, I've written everything. I've written plays, I've written poems, I've written books, I've written sales letters, I've written everything, but I've never written a song. So the first thing I had to do was pay attention to songs. And then the songs take all kind of forms. Anybody knows that about music? Anything goes. There's not even really any basic rules. They can all be broken. Then you can call it jazz. Anything could happen. So I'm complaining a little bit and saying I don't know how to write a song. And he says something that changed my life, but I want to share with you to change your life. He said, it's easier to remember than it is to create. I got chills. It's easier to remember than it is to create. And like most of you, I had no idea what that meant. What does it mean? It's easier to remember than it is to create. And this is where it gets mind-boggling, because Daniel started to explain to me that the past, the present, and the future already exist. Now, if you heard my talk, the last time I spoke here at TLC was on Ho'oponopono, and I talked about Dr. Hulen and how powerful that is. Dr. Hulen and I did an event one time, and we were talking about life being this long painting. And the painting's already painted. It's done. The past is done, the present's done, the future is done. And Dr. Hulen said, however, if you keep cleaning, which is the I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, you change the painting. So, here's the philosophical stance I want to begin with. Life is already mapped out. In many ways, and it came from some of the stories I was in my little group, people were talking about, it looked like the events that were so tragic and so confusing in the moment actually were pieces of a puzzle that didn't make sense until after the fact. You stand at a future point, you turn around and look back and go, oh yeah, that's why it happened. It all got mapped out as if somebody scripted it. As if somebody scripted it. Now last night I'm laying awake in bed thinking of 1,000 different ways to talk about the remembering process, which is the technique that Daniel Barrett taught me. And I'm suddenly remembering the book Moby Dick. How many read Moby Dick? Herman Melville's book. I love that book. But in the book there was a disturbing phrase in there where he talked about the future was already set out and all Ahab and everybody else were doing were playing their parts. When I first read the book, I took on a fatalistic attitude, like, this is just life. Whatever happens is scheduled to happen. It was scripted to happen. I don't know who's writing the script, but it's not me. All I have to do is just play the part. Just play it out. And hope that I'm in a good script. hope that I'm in a comedy and not a terrorist drama or something. And then as I kept going with Dr. Hulen was talking about the idea if we keep cleaning, we actually get to change the painting. We change the past, we change the moment, and we change the future. by our interaction with the moment. So Daniel's telling me it's easier to remember than it is to create. So, my marvelous whiteboard. You all know I love the whiteboard. If you don't, you didn't hear my last talk. The whiteboard is where it's all at. The whiteboard is my symbol, my metaphor for unlimited quality, unlimited life. It's divinity, which is what I want to listen to. Most of us sit here and we react and we respond to everything that's happening to us. And even those in this room, as empowered as we all are, we do the same thing. Now, in the past, some of you know, I was homeless, I was in poverty, I went through all my own struggles, we all have our own story. I went through mine, but during that period, I'm not empowered, and I'm not acting like I'm empowered. I'm a victim, and I'm acting like a victim. Now, all of you here are past that. You are empowered, you are acting empowered, you are living these wonderful lives. So you are coming here and you're saying things like yesterday we talked about, I intend, and I want. And I stated intentions, I stated desires as well. But you know what? Intentions and wants are for wimps. Therefore, wimps, I want to go beyond that. What Daniel was teaching me is that we've got this timeline, and most of us sitting here talking about what I intend in the future are talking about what we want to have over here in this point in time, somewhere in the future. The remembering process, and please stay with me on this because this is mind expanding. And I'm going to tell you right now, you have never heard this before. I have written the self-help books. I have read the self-help books. I've read virtually everybody's book here. I'm very aware of the self-help techniques, the manifestation techniques, the visualization techniques. I teach them, I write them, I review them, I know of them. Never, ever have I come across the remembering process. Which is in part what's explaining why I have 4 CDs in 18 months and playing guitar music like what you heard as the intro was playing. So, most of us in here are saying, I intend or I want. We want something over here, correct? We want something in the future. Right now, if I asked any of you to state what some of your intentions are, you'd tell me, I intend to visualize, I intend to manifest, I intend to attract something at some point in the future. That's totally logical. Here's where it's not logical. Daniel taught me to do the remembering process, where you go here, way into the future, and remember back to the manifestation of what you want to attract. This is now no longer I intend or I want, it's now I remember. And I'm going to demonstrate this. I remember. So I signed on with Daniel to do this Rubicon year. And the original plan was I was going to come out with a CD in 1 year. I would have 12 months to learn what I needed to learn, to write songs, to do all of this good stuff. That's still breaking the sound barrier, no pun intended. It's still pushing the limits. But along about that time, the editor of Austin All Natural magazine contacts me and says, I want to put you on the cover of the magazine. And I said, for what? He said, for whatever you want. That's pretty nice. And I thought, well, I'm doing this music, but the music won't be done for 12 months. And I thought, I wonder if I can get a CD done in 3 months. I wonder if I can get a CD done and get me and the CD and my debut as a musician on the cover of the Austin All Natural magazine. So I'm telling Daniel about it. In the old days, I would say, I intend to be on the cover of Austin All Natural with my first CD in 3 months. I want that. That'd be pretty powerful. It's more powerful than being a victim. Now it is, I remember being on the cover. This is before I was on the cover. Okay? This is back in January of a year or so ago, whatever it was. I'm sitting with Daniel, and we're doing this remembering process, and we're playing. I remember being on the cover of Austin All Natural. I think I was on the cover holding a harp guitar, which is something I just purchased, a 1915 Gibson harp guitar, very unusual, something that would be very photogenic, and I thought logically it would look good on the magazine cover. So I'm playing with this. As with anything you do when you remember it, you don't remember totally accurately. How many of you went to the second grade? How many of you went to the second grade? Virtually everybody. Can you remember all the details? No. But when you start to remember the second grade, details will start to come to you. You'll start to remember the name of the high school, your best friend, what your favorite clothes were, what your favorite subject was, what one you hated. You'll start to remember as you focus. You'll start to remember the facts. Same thing happens. Remember, Dr. Glenn and Herman Melville are saying life is already done. We've scripted it. We're playing our roles. The punchline is that they didn't tell us is that we can change it with these new techniques. So one of them is, I remember. I go to the future, past the magazine coming out, and I pretend to remember what I can visualize on the cover. And you can argue, is he really pretending it, or did it really happen? I'm coming from the stance that it's actually real. The future is already done out there. I can mentally transport to it, turn around, look back, and pick up some of the highlights, constantly changing. So I remember being on the magazine cover. I think it was for the harp guitar. In that moment I'm doing the memory exercise. It does not exist. Not in the Newtonian side of things. Not in the real point of time where Daniel and I were sitting there. We are remembering it. Are you with me so far? Okay. So what happens? 3 months go by. My first CD comes out. I'm on the cover of Austin All Natural, holding a harp guitar. When I visualized this, neither one of these even seemed possible. Please get that. This is 3 months. This is me not knowing anything. I'm holding a harp guitar, for God's sake. I didn't know how to play that. And ending up on the magazine pretty much the way I remembered it. This is powerful. So that's one of the things. I still wanted to go through and come up with my music CD. And I went ahead and a few months later did Strut, which is songs of motivation and inspiration and transformation. When we're making this CD, we would have meetings. And Daniel and I would look at each other and say, well, I don't know how many tracks are on it. We don't know what the names of the tracks are. This didn't exist. We're in his meeting. We project into the future, turn around and look back to when it does exist. And we try to foggily say, well, I think it has my picture on the cover, which would make sense. But it would look like I'm holding a particular guitar. On the back, we're trying to see from here. I remember that it has 11 tracks. I remember that it has these certain names on it. We don't know at that point in time if it's actually true. We don't know. We're doing a futuristic exercise. We're projecting ourselves way into the future, turning around, looking back past when we were trying to create this. By doing that, we accelerated the process of creativity. I was able to invite into myself all of the different tracks and the graphics and the look and feel of this by remembering it. I was thinking the other day, I don't know if this quote makes sense, I don't even know if I'm going to remember it correctly. But this moment right now is what somebody in the past was trying to visualize, and somebody in the future is remembering back to as one of their favorite moments in their life. Okay? There's a timeline here that we are assuming exists. The past is there, and even the past gets changed. I mean, most of you already know this, but I have to tell the story of Leo Buscaglia. How many remember Leo Buscaglia? Love doctor. I love that man. I love what he stood for. And he used to talk about how wonderful his childhood was. So he would sit here in the present and look back here and say, oh, my childhood was so wonderful. My parents were so great. And they took care of us and they fed us. And we had such a happy family. And one time a reporter interviewed his brother. And the brother said, I have no idea what he's talking about. They were not happy. We were not treated well. We were not, all of those healthy things. But this gets changed by how we look at it. But that's all here. You know all of that. You know how to intend. You know how to want. I'm talking about going past this. Instead of sitting here and saying, I intend to, in my case, I want to end homelessness. I intend to end homelessness, and I'm trying to project my visualization into the world that becomes true. What I'm doing instead is, I'm past it. Homelessness is over. It's gone. It no longer exists. Poverty's gone. It no longer exists. So I'm over here remembering. I remember that a whole lot of people like the ones that are in this room, all got together and did this in homelessness. And I don't know if it was a movie, I don't know if it's an event. You see how the process works? You're piecing it together because like any memory, you don't have all of the pieces totally there. You're remembering them. This is so much more empowering. This is so much more empowering than I intend and I want. I'm a great believer in coming from divinity. Divinity is the whiteboard to me. All of my intentions are coming from divinity. That's what I want to listen to. That's what I want to act from. Yesterday, I was in the group. Where's Raymond? What did you feel like saying what my intention was to remember?
Go to heal your heel.
That was one of them. The other one was about this presentation. Yes, I was stating an intention of what I wanted to do in this presentation. I wanted to introduce you to the remembering process. The only reason I'm up here is that Daniel taught me the remembering process. I turned into a book with him. Hay House is going to publish it in February, thanks to Ariel, wherever she is. Yes, right there. And I sent it to Jack for an endorsement. And he came back and he so loved it, he invited me to speak to share it all with you. So this is a presentation I've never given before. What I've done was try to remember how I did it. For example, Narissa and I are going to the airport the other day. And she said, "Are you excited about getting to speak to TLC again?" And I said, "Hell no." Nope. And she said, "Why not?" I said, "I'm being asked to speak on a book that's not finished. It's to be out next year, so I can't even sell anything to you. And I give it to you anyway. And on a topic I've never spoken about before, to all the people that I love, the people that I admire, the people that I study. And I know the last talk I gave, it was a home run. Everybody loved it. Here's my chance to fail. I get to come back. So I did." In that moment of driving in the car with her, I was coming from victim, I was coming from no empowerment, I was coming from lack of strength, lack of ability in myself, all of these different things. So I took a breath and I said, "Would you mind doing the remembering process with me right now?" And she said, "Well, what do you mean? How would that work?" And I said, "We're not going to the airport, we're coming back from the trip. We're in the car, and we're still driving to the airport," but I said, "Nope, not now. Now we're coming back from the trip." And my whole energy changed. I said, "Oh God, I so love the event. I so love these people. I saw old friends here. I met new friends here. And when I gave the presentation, I saw eyes come bright. I saw people get so alert. They were sitting up straight in their chair. I saw some of them get it so that they were so empowered. And then I said, and I remember I played a track from my new CD, the one called Empowered, which I swear to God, please, this is totally authentic. It is a 5-minute track that'll make you feel like you can walk on water. It is the most empowering thing I have ever heard. When we were in the studio, I have all of these rock and roll legends in there. And I have an old Dan Electro guitar, which some of you might know. It was considered a novelty back in the 60s, but now they're collectibles. And I said, I have this riff, and I started playing it. And we ended up improvising this 4 or 5 minute music that I think is the most mesmerizing music I've ever heard in my life. And then the other Joe Vitale, who has all this experience, he's listening to this, and he says, I can't add anything to the music. He said, all it wants is your voice. All it wants is your voice. So that bugged me. I'm thinking about it, and I started to receive, that night driving home, I started to receive these statements of empowerment. These statements of empowerment, I've been in hypnosis for 30-some years. I know affirmations, I know scripting, I know how to write these statements that go into your mind. These statements are designed to go to your God self, not your little S self, your big S self. And I was so inspired driving home. I turned on the iPhone and I was recording what I could get because I knew I was going to lose it if I got home and I had to go feed critters and this thing and the other. I get caught up in all of that and I probably would lose it. So we went back into the studio and I said, turn the mic on, cue up that empowerment track that has the music, and just let me go. I got chills now thinking about this. It was so freaking inspired. It was coming from divinity itself. And so I was telling Narissa in the car, we're driving to the airport, remember, but I'm doing the remembering process and remembering coming back from this trip. And I said, I played that 5 minutes. And you people floated out of the room. It will stick with you. It will change you. It will empower you. In fact, I'm turning it into some other products. Here's the marketing side of me. It's like, I just can't help but think of these things. All of this, though, is coming from remembering. In a very real way, the future is already existing. We go into it mentally. You can use it as a mental exercise. You can go ahead and say, that's bull, Joe. The future does not exist. That's fine. An atheist can go ahead and use this. A firm believer can use this. You can use it as a mental exercise, or you can use it as a mental transport. And you actually are going to the future, or you're going to a parallel universe. You can rationalize whatever it is in your own mind to make it work. But what's working for me is I go to the point past what I want to manifest. I go past it, but I remember back to it. Pay attention to the language here. When you say I intend and I want, those are powerful statements, but there's built-in limitation. Aren't you saying I don't already have it? Isn't there just a little thread of a desperation there? I love these statements. They're so much more powerful than the I victim statements. But I intend and I want are stating I don't have it. I remember is stating, oh yeah, I did have it. I got it. I'm done with that. All the ease is there. All the gentleness is there. All the creativity is open for you here. This is more powerful to me and easier to me because this still is a fight. It's a cool fight. It's much more empowering to do this. I intend, I want. But I remember is so much easier. I'm doing this on bigger things, and I'm going to be very open with you about this. One of my dreams, because I'm going into the deep end with the music, 4 CDs in 18 months, 3 Grammy winners are involved in the most current CD. I got these rock and roll legends helping me. I've already been in Rolling Stone magazine. I was in Texas Music magazine. I was voted one of the top 10 singer-songwriters in Austin, which still perplexes me because there's a singer-songwriter in every house in Austin. It doesn't seem humanly possible. But these things are happening in real time. And so one of the ones I'm doing now is I remember when I was on the cover of Rolling Stone magazine. And it says, secret movie star Joe Vitale attracts chart-topping success. This is my visualization. I'm anchoring from this level, I intend and I want, with this kind of a graphic. But I'm using it too because this is happening. And I'm remembering it. So somebody tell me a goal that you have, an intention that you have, so I can demonstrate how this works for you. Yes?
I am in development with Paramount Studios on a television show teaching people how to make dreams come true. That's the reality. My intention was that it actually gets on the air and stays on the air. And now I want to remember it getting an Emmy.
All right.
So I'm in that gap between, feeling out of control with what I can actually create and make happen. And I notice that my doubt comes up, my limitations, my stories.
Right.
And having to manage myself into believing.
Yeah. And the beauty about the remembering process is you don't have to do any of that managing at all. It actually invites inspiration. It invites all the things that you would struggle for from here to have happen. They happen this way. When I was doing the Strut CD, the drummer we had lined up fell through the cracks. He had some other gig, better offer, who knows what it was. And Daniel wasn't worried at all because he said, there's drummers, we're in Austin, Texas, there's drummers everywhere. We get 5 drummers. He says, but if you get an inspiration for something, let me know. And I'm just sitting there and I'm imagining that this is already done. I'm remembering this. And I said, well, I don't know if it actually happened or not, but I remember the other Joe Vitale being the drummer. I did not know him. I knew of him. We're not related. I knew of him. And he thought, well, that's a great idea. But notice what's happening? Inspiration was coming to me. I wasn't sitting there going, okay, I'm going to make a to-do list of 12 different drummers, and I'm going to start contacting them. Instead, inspiration whispered in my ear, why don't you just contact the editor of Vitale? And I wrote to him. I found an email address. I wrote to him. I said, it's a long shot from hell. Please don't be insulted. You know, I'm a beginning singing songwriter. I'm going to do this on such and such date. And I said, I'd like to hire you to be the drummer. And he looked at his calendar, wrote back, and he said, I'm on tour all the way up to those dates. I'm on tour after those dates, but I'm available for those 2 dates. He's on. And he transformed the music. So what I would be doing with you is, I already remember that's already done. I remember when you won the Emmy. I remember that I had to remind you that you were in this talk, because you forgot the talk. It didn't seem that important to you at the time. It just got lost and with everything else that you were doing. And I remember that, in fact, there was a special done about you, as I remember. There was a special done about you and the Emmy that you won, and there was some kind of behind-the-scenes story on how you did it. I don't remember what that was.
Oh, I know what that was.
Yeah?
That was me dealing with my insecurity around my dream about making a show around making dreams.
Yes, exactly. Somebody else. I want you to give a feel for this. Yes?
In real life, I'm in the process now. I just got a great offer to turn my mystery novels into a movie with a producer that we really love. And so I'm now in that long process between now and actually seeing the movie come to fruition. And I have this incredible, deep desire for this movie to transmit these ideas in the book to a lot of people that might not otherwise be able to get hold of them.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's the thing.
Okay. And so you hear, and this is great. He's here. He has all of this happening that he can visualize here. I jump over to the future, and I remember how it happened. I remember that this all took place to such a degree that there were news stories done about you. There were some specials done about you. I think there was a Newsweek article that was done. I don't remember if it was Newsweek at the time. There was something along those things. You made so much money from this, even though you're doing fantastic the way you are, that I think you sent me some. I don't remember that. That's the thing about remembering. Sometimes it's a little vague. It's a little
Aren't you like imagining and creating the future? I'm sorry.
She's asking, aren't you imagining and creating the future? You know, I don't know with clarity what actually is happening. I'm playing with, for me, the Herman Melville, Dr. Who Len philosophy that the past, the present, and the future already exist in a timeline. It's the painting that's already painted. And in the past, for me, in the 70s, and that's when I was homeless and everything, I thought that was fate. And none of that can be changed. Now I'm realizing all of it can be changed. The past can be changed, the present can be changed, and the future can be changed. How much of it is when I say I remember he's sending me money is real or a deep wish on my part? I don't honestly know. What I'm doing my best, with as much clarity as possible, is to truly come from the point where that thing that I want, it's old. It already happened. It happened months ago, and now it's a vague memory because I'm trying to tune into how did that happen? And I don't really remember, but I know that's the underlying thing. When you remember, you know what happened. It's no longer a wish from here. It's no longer a desire, an intention, or a possibility. It's a reality from here. So how much is mental imagery? How much are you actually molding? I don't know. Well, I'm a blast doing it from here. You know, and that's the big difference. Give me another point right behind you.
Joe, I want to maybe just make a comment about it. I have an example. The comment is, you're using the power of consciousness. The fact that you're standing in the future and you're looking back means you've erased all the doubt, all the questioning, every aspect of what's between the present and the future. You're standing there in that consciousness and you're looking back, and that's the power of it. I can see this is really powerful, is what you're saying.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, because it also ties into something Marcy was asking me last night, because she was fascinated. I was telling her about the 4 CDs and everything, and she asked me this question, weren't you afraid?
Yeah, right.
And I said, absolutely yes. And I said, that's really important for everybody to hear, because I don't want you to think that I did 4 CDs like it was nothing, you know, and 18 months here they are, and Rolling Stone and all this other stuff. Deep, core level fear was there. But I used the remembering process on it, because I'd sit with Daniel, and we'd sit and we're just talking. I remember that those fears just disappeared one day. I don't remember exactly how they went away, but there was something, and maybe it was, and again, we're remembering. We don't know if it actually happened this way, but I remember that you looked at those fears and realized that that was the invisible wall between you and being a rock star. And you decided rock star was more important than fear. You stepped through it. There were things like that, because the fear, honest to God, the fear of, people know me as an author or an internet marketer. They don't think of me as a musician. So I'm coming out there as a musician, and I'm going to get behind it with my marketing arsenal, and I'm going to put it out there. And that's very dangerous, because now I'm exposing myself. Okay, I'm writing my own songs. These are personal songs. One song on Strut is called Testosterone. Very personal. About my 30 days on overdoses of that stuff. Marissa didn't like it at all. You can ask her about that. Or not. So deep fears were there, but I used the remembering process and came from the future and remembered when they were gone. Obviously they're gone because I'm cranking these things out and having a blast doing it.
Okay, so my future reality that I want to live in is that I can become a spokesperson for the future of the planet.
Yes.
Because I have vision and I have understanding about the future of this world, but I don't have the platform.
At this point in time.
Correct.
At this point in time.
That's my future.
Yep, okay. So at this point in time, you can hear he's talking about in the future at some point he's got to have a platform. That's the one thing you're looking for. Here, I remember when you got it. I remember how that came together. I don't remember exactly, because it's a memory. But on some level, in some way, some shape, it came together. It's a reality that took place here. Someplace along the timeline, I remember that actually happened. But I don't exactly remember how.
So are you putting more, it sounds like in the demo process, you've been putting more focus on the remembering the process of getting there. Is it equally valuable to focus in on, I remember the outcome? You know, so you've been focusing in here, like when Gordon was just talking, it's like, oh, I remembered him speaking to NATO and at the United Nations. So I was focused more on the end result. Does it matter, or it's all part of the remembering process?
It's all part of the remembering process. A little bit try to remember that second grade experience, and you might say, I had such and such as a teacher. I don't quite remember her name, and I think it was in October or something. I did a special project with her, and I can't quite remember what the project was. As you stick with it, you might remember all of those details. As you stick with this, you might remember actually what unfolded here, which is how you can get it done. Because you'll get the insight. I remember that I did such and such. I remember that I hired the other Joe Vitale as a drummer. Well, that wasn't the plan over here. There wasn't a plan over here.
You might remember how to thread it all the way back to over there. And
it may come together so that I can remember the whole thread is exactly right. Now, I want to have enough time to give you that 5 minutes that I promised you of empowerment with that track. So, Jack, if you don't mind, I need to call on you, because you're the only person in the room that has read the book. And I want to just find out, is there something that stood out in the book that you really want to, I'll change that. What stood out in the book that you really want everybody here to know? Because I might be missing it.
No, the main thing that stood out for me was just the idea. I think you've covered what stood out for me. That's what I've been doing now. Just to give you a fun little example, we were over in Hawaii running a workshop with Stuart and I and Joni, and there was a guy there named Martin Pelzer from Germany. He runs the largest NLP Institute. We're going to nominate him for this group. He's a cool guy. But the way he writes a book a year, the way he writes it in a couple of weeks. He goes into the future, walks into a bookstore, buys his book off the bestseller list, brings it home, and starts to read it out loud. Literally reads the table of contents, starts reading the first page, and reads it out loud in a recorder, and that's his book.
Wow. There you go, folks. Thank you. I'm glad you said that. That is so great. Okay, I'm going to ask them to play the 5-minute track here. All you have to do is relax. There is a question back over here.
Yeah, just a real quick comment, just an observation. But just the word remember, it's conceived language, but remember. One of the things
that I'm noticing here is I'm putting myself in the future speaking as if I remember. I am literally in that picture.
Yes.
And the problem with futuring, I'm not in the picture out there. It's out there, but I'm not in it. in the way that I am here. By coming back, neurolinguistically, there's just a very interesting piece that goes into play with that.
That's a great observation. This is about language, and I hinted at it here. As much as I like intend and I want, it's actually more powerful to actually remember that it's already over. It's already in your reality. It's already part of your history. You're just remembering the details. Now, he's going to play this 5 minutes, and the first part is just music. I just want you to relax. You can be thinking about what is it that you've been wanting to attract, manifest, create, because I think all of this is an advanced manifestation course, advanced philosophical course. And you can remember back in some way. Just allow it to come. There's no right or wrong. Just allow the images to come. Much like last night, I'm reading remembering Moby Dick, and somehow that was relevant to all of this. Only that was coming from fatalism. So you're remembering the completion, the attraction, the manifestation of what you were looking for. And just enjoy the process for the 4 minutes or so, yes.
Believe anything is possible.
You are the most powerful people on the planet. You are amazing. You are love. You are miracles. You are more empowered than you have any idea. I want you to remember all the great things you've done in the world. I love you all. Thanks for the honor of speaking to you.